But as far as like what they're pulling up from the bottom of lakes to salvage, I wouldn't even at this point know where to go to talk to someone about that. I would love to though.
Monahan Lumber.
Monahan Lumber?
Monahan and Peterborough. I think they carry.
Okay.
Instead of Quebec, I think just the other side of the Ottawa River.
Okay.
They did.
I was just going to say, there's a place I think up around the Army camp at Tonawalla. There's no place up there that was.
Okay.
Probably the same.
Maybe.
Probably, yeah. There's probably like one supplier, and yeah. Okay.
They're selling it for flooring.
Really?
Yeah.
That's kind of a shame.
Yeah, they sell floors.
I believe it.
Yeah, it's because it's always first growth lumber that's sought after.
Because it's typically much more dense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a guy in Montreal that tears down barns and planes all the wood and sells it for flooring too.
Okay.
Tongue and grooves it, and it's very expensive.
I believe it, yeah. Yes.
I'm wondering, with the whole effort and energy and cost, how much it goes into making a sound versus the look of the guitar?
Well, like I said, a lot of what I had previously thought was total black magic ends up just being an engineering problem. If you know your tolerances and you build to it, then you're going to get a fairly consistent product. That said, you can obviously tune wood. Like if I were to take the top off and magically be able to reattach it, but if I were to shave down some of my bracing a little bit, I'd get a different sound when I reattached. So yeah, I definitely spend time trying to reduce mass and increase strength at the same time wherever I can. So I'm not quite sure if that answers your question, but that's...
Yeah, I was thinking that when you talk about the tops more spruce, you're picking the sides and back. A lot of it looks gorgeous, and then you see guitars. Or is it because I want to get a certain sound?
Well, interestingly, when my first day when I went to visit Sergey, he's at the same level as Grit Laskin, who I was talking about earlier. He's like, of the people in Canada, he's one of the top 5 luthiers. The first day, he put his top together, and he was holding it up like this and tapping. And so, of course, all of us students were starting to do the exact same thing, not having any idea what we're listening for. And he's like, tap, tap, tap. Yeah, that tells me nothing. Just starts going to work. So for him, it's definitely much more about how the guitar looks. And then putting because he knows his tolerances so well and he knows what to do, he knows that from the bracing he'll get the sound he wants. So.
What kind of glue do you use?
Just regular wood-based wood glue, or water-based wood glue.
And you don't get creep or anything with the wood glue with that shape?
No, I haven't seen any. Yeah.
How many cut pieces are there in a typical guitar? I count 4, like the side, the back, the front, and then the neck. But there's probably more. I'm just simplifying it. I just want.
Well, there's the two sides. There's the front. There's the back. But the front and the back are each 2 pieces that are laminated together.
Okay.
There's the neck, which is 1 piece.
Uh-huh.
There's the fingerboard, which is.
Which is the fingerboard? It fits on top of the neck.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the neck, and this is the fingerboard.
Okay, so they laminate together somehow. Okay.
Yeah, and there's the bridge, and then there's all the bracing inside.
Okay, so the side is 2 pieces?
There's in this guitar there's actually 3. There's this side, and then there's this little swoop, which is its own little cut piece.
Did you build one of the 1 pieces? What I was wondering, or does it have to be done that way?
I haven't. It's not usually done that way. Well, when you buy lumber for guitars, it's if you wanted to do 1 piece, you would have an enormously long piece. It'd probably be
that's
this.
why I was wondering how many pieces. Okay.
Yeah, so typically each side is one piece,
Okay.
unless you're doing a cutaway, in which case it could be one piece if it's like rounded over. But if it's a Florentine like this, it'll be two pieces. Yes.
When you do the face and the back pieces, are you using a pattern and a router bit to get the shape? Is that how you do it?
To get the shape
Well,
of,
to get the front, say you're cutting the front piece out.
yeah.
Do you have a pattern that you lay on top of your material and follow with a router bit? How do you do that?
No, what I do is I cut my top a little bit too big,
Right?
and I attach it to the guitar sides and back, like the frame of it, so that it's overlapping. And then I go through with there's a special router jig I've got that kind of cuts into the sides and into the top. And I just basically it follows the sides perfectly.
Okay.
And then I add this little binding piece on separately, which covers up all of that router
But
channel.
it's very much like router pattern or another pattern.
Somewhat, except the guitar itself is the pattern.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Who do you sell them to and how much?
Yeah.
I am, right now I'm selling them online. I have a shop on Etsy, and you can reach that through my website at blacksheepguitar.com. And I've also had them in stores. I don't have any in stores right now, but I've had them in Hands On Music in Bowmanville, as well as Wilson and Lee here in Oshawa. So, yeah.
When you're making the neck, do you start out with a piece thick enough to give you the bend at the end, or do you do a scarf joint?
So far, I've always used a piece that's big enough at the end that I can just make it one piece.
Okay.
I know that a lot of people do use scarf joints, especially the big manufacturers like Martin and Gibson and all those. The problem is that tends to be the weak link, and I've seen a lot of breaks right there, and you can tell it's just straight along the joint. So, yeah.
The fingerboard itself, do you measure it and put the fret bars across yourself, or does it come that way?
I measure and put them across myself.
You do.
Yeah, I have a jig that I use that basically I have one that I bought that was laser cut, and I double-sided tape it to the blank for the piece of ebony that I'm going to use, and then I run it through a jig. So I line the fret slot up with a laser, and once it's exactly where it needs to be, I just push it through my table saw, and it cuts the slots perfectly. Yeah.
How much would that one sell for?
And that one I would sell for $3,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's more than
Yeah.
So you were mentioning some of the famous luthiers in Canada and around the world. So, for instance, in Canada, would a lot of them be making custom guitars, or would someone be working like for Larrabee, that type of thing?
A lot of the ones that the interesting thing about Larrabee is that at one point, Grit Laskin, who I was talking about, and Sergey, who was my instructor, and Linda Manzer, who is another huge name, they were all working there. And at some point, they all started leaving and successfully opening their own businesses doing this. And what happened was Larrabee realized that this is what was happening, and so started to compartmentalize things a lot more. So it used to be that they would give a worker a pile of lumber and wait for them to come out with a guitar. Now they give a worker a fingerboard and they come back, or a fingerboard blank, and they come back with a fingerboard. And they give some other guy a neck blank and he comes back with a neck. So they've really started to compartmentalize things to try and reduce people because for them it was a huge HR problem, right? Like they have these highly, highly skilled workers who do beautiful work, and they're leaving because they've I guess learned everything that they could learn there, and so they started compartmentalizing their labor that way. Yeah.
Do you ever do any inlaying or anything with like mother of pearl or any exotic?
Not so far. That's definitely on my to-do list. This one has some. It's got the side dots, and that's a typical feature in mine. I usually like to kind of let the wood speak for itself. I'm really not a fan of the dot inlay. To me, it's lazy, and I don't know. I don't find it looks nice. I mean, your mileage will vary. Everyone's different, but
Sometimes it's too much. Can be too much.
Yeah. Sometimes less is more, and I like to let the wood speak for itself. This is kind of an atypical example of my work, because I typically try and get as exciting of a fingerboard as I can find. I've got some that are I use mun ebony a lot. I also use a lot of what's it called? I can't think of the name of it right now. It's got like wide white streaks in it. It's beautiful. Like, so it goes from black to white. It's not really striped. It's like mottled. Pale moon ebony. So I typically like to let the wood speak for itself. But like I said, this is kind of an atypical example of that. It's kind of got one of the most boring fingerboards.
And another question.
Yeah.
For the sidewalls in the front and the back, do you buy it as veneer or do you buy it in thicker? Is it thicker than veneer or thinner than veneer? Or
It's thicker than veneer. It's all solid wood, and the sides and back are about 2.6 millimeters thick. So they start out thicker. They start out closer to 3.5. And by the time I've kind of sanded everything down and ran it through my thickness sander, it ends up being about 2.6. So, yes.
Anybody making, or is it possible to make guitars from wood from Ontario?
It is possible. It's certainly possible. It's a little more difficult. I'm actually working right now on a mandolin that I'm building out of locally sourced walnut. So that'll be interesting. Like the top, every other top that I've done has been spruce, but that one I'm going to have the top be walnut as well. So it should be interesting.
Have you ever built a 12-string?
Not yet. No, I'm interested in giving it a try. I've actually been asked about it a couple of times, and my answer is always not yet, but I'm very interested in trying. So,
Are there any challenges in doing that versus a 6?
there is. You've got a lot more force involved, so you have to do extra bracing on the inside. Other than that, it's fairly similar. I mean, your neck blank is going to have to be longer to accommodate unless you do a scarf joint, to accommodate the extra large headstock. But the main challenge is in the bracing, because you are dealing with a lot more force. Yes?
Where do you buy the wood you build your guitars with?
Most of them I have, there's a place in Burlington called Exotic Woods. That's where they've got a whole room that's climate controlled. It's fantastic for anyone who wants to get into this. It's like a climate controlled room, probably about half the size of this. And it's, just absolutely packed with beautiful, beautiful woods. So, yeah.
Did you build a snowsuit for your guitar to bring it out today?
No, but it was tempting. Yes.
You want to use hide glue anymore?
Some luthiers do, but a lot of the like even the big names, Sergey doesn't. He just uses regular wood or water-based wood glue.
So you got the
You can't. Well, you can take this apart as well, and I have on some unfortunate occasions. But yeah, it is definitely a lot harder. It's a lot easier to reactivate hide glue. But hide glue is also really difficult to work with.
It has a longer setup time, doesn't it?
Yeah. So yes.
Can you make a left-handed one?
I haven't done so yet, but I definitely could. The violin I talked about earlier, that was a left-handed violin. I made it for my wife because they really don't make left-handed violins. So, yes?
Is restoration part of your business model?
No, it's not. Not so far. I may end up getting into it, but I haven't done any yet. Yeah.
Just the guitar that you have here now, with it not having a pick guard on it in the shape of your head, is that your standard, your kind of signature now? Or do you have different head styles?
No, this is pretty much the head style that I use. But interestingly, this guitar does have a pick guard on it. It's just it's clear, so you probably can't see it from there. But it's yeah. If you want to come up and take a look, you're more than welcome to.
Okay, is there any other questions? If not, I'd like to thank Bob for coming out.